You're here because your mind won't rest. Every night, the same thoughts return. Regrets, overthinking, old mistakes, future fears. You want peace, but the harder you chase it, the faster it runs. This video is about that exact struggle, how to rewire negative thinking using ancient Stoic wisdom and simple modern reflection. You'll learn how to stop your mind from turning small worries into storms, how to quiet the self-criticism that keeps you awake, and how to wake up tomorrow with clarity instead of chaos. It isn't about pretending everything is fine. It's about understanding your thoughts, seeing them for what they are, and finally taking back control of your inner world. So breathe. Set the phone down. You don't need to take notes. You don't need to rush. Just listen. Breathe and let the ideas sink in. We'll start with the problem, move through the Stoic tools that retrain your mind, and end with a quiet reflection to help you fall into deep rest. Because once you master your thinking, peace stops being a visitor and becomes your home. Now picture this, your thoughts as a hall of mirrors. Each fear is just a reflection, bent and stretched, convincing you it's real. Yet all it takes is one shift in perspective, and the monster shrinks back into glass. Once you grasp this, you stop chasing shadows and start mastering the flame behind them. Have you ever noticed that the fiercest battles never happen on streets or fields, but behind your forehead? Fear, anger, anxiety, they don't knock politely. They crash in, rearrange the furniture of your mind, and leave you exhausted. Man or woman, young or old, no one is spared. Some drown it with work, some bury it under laughter, others hide it under luxury. But when the night grows quiet, the storm always returns. Here's the paradox no one tells you. Those storms are not intruders, they are raw winds. And a ship without wind never sails. Peace is not a lake without ripples. It's learning to dance with the current while the thunder still shakes. Tonight, we'll move gently through layers of the mind, each one loosening a knot that's been tightening all day. So breathe with me once. Inhale, hold, release. You've just proven you can command one moment. The question that now hovers over you, when the next wave crashes, will you surrender as a passenger or rise as captain of your own sea? Your mind is an engine, you hold the ignition. Most people treat the mind like a stubborn machine that runs wherever it wants. But here's the shock. Your mind is not a passenger vehicle. It's a high-performance engine. Left on idle, it burns fuel, overheats, and fills the air with smoke. Start it with intention, steer it with clarity, and it can carry you across any terrain. Think of thoughts as gears. When you stay stuck in reverse, regret, comparison, self-doubt, you grind metal against metal. When you shift into forward, gratitude, focus, direction, the ride smooths out. The engine itself isn't good or bad. It magnifies whatever gear you choose. I once sat in an office meeting where a project collapsed in front of everyone. Tension rose, voices sparked. My instinct was to slam the accelerator, raise my voice, join the chaos. But I gripped the wheel instead, wrote quietly on my notepad, "What is the next useful move?" In that moment, the noise became background. I found traction, and when I spoke, calm and precise, the energy shifted. My control of the gear helped others downshift too. Another time in a supermarket, the cashier miscalculated my bill. Old me would have barked, "Check again." That day, I caught the gear before it slipped. I said, "Let's sort it together." Her nervous smile softened, the man in line unclenched, and I walked away not with victory, but with peace. One small shift in gear, and the entire ride of my evening changed. Sometimes the mind flashes warnings, not to scare you, but simply to remind you to slow down. The goal is not to eliminate negative thoughts. Engines need friction to move. The real mastery is deciding which gear deserves your fuel. Practice now the ignition drill. Close your eyes, inhale for 5, hold for 2, exhale for 7. Whisper to yourself, I hold the key, not the engine. Picture one worry today as a gear grinding. See yourself clutch, shift, release. Do it 3 times. Notice how the engine calms under your command. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Quality here means which gear you choose. Don't hand the keys to panic, fear, or anger. Reflection. In which area of your life today must you grab the wheel, work, family, or even a checkout line, and shift the gear before it drags you off the road? Direct the mind from autopilot to pilot. Picture yourself thousands of feet above the earth, harnessed tight across your shoulders. The hatch opens, air whips past your face, your stomach lurches. And then, without permission, it isn't your body that leaps, it's your thoughts. Panic shoves you forward, rage yanks a strap too soon, doubt murmurs, the parachute won't hold. You're tumbling, spinning, the world a blur. That is life on mental autopilot. Here's the twist. You're not just cargo falling through the sky. You're the one with the handle in your grip. Fear may push, worry may scream, but the decision to steady, to guide, to glide, it belongs to you. Most people spend the day in a mental plunge. A careless word feels like the canopy tangled. A short email reads like catastrophe. By night, they collapse in bed drained, not from reality, but from the inner dive their head insisted was fatal. The answer isn't canceling the leap. The leap is life itself. The answer is learning the sequence. Breathe, pause, pull. Gusts of anger and fear will always rush in, but a skilled jumper doesn't fight the wind. He angles the fabric, catches lift, and uses the very force that once threatened him. So try this exercise. The ripcord pause. When a heavy thought yanks you downward, stop. Step 1. Whisper to yourself, this is a jump, not a crash. Step 2. Take a full inhale, hold briefly, exhale long, as if you were leveling your chute. Step 3. Ask, what tiny strap can I pull right now? Maybe it's sending one line of the message, drinking a glass of water, or stepping outside for a minute. Small tugs, big stabilization. It rarely takes more than 60 seconds, yet that minute can mean the difference between spinning helplessly and steering with intent. Marcus Aurelius once said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Think of strength not as brute force, but as the calm grip on the harness. The descent still happens. The landing, though, is yours to direct. So let me ask you, this week, when your thoughts shoved you out the door, did you spiral or did you remember the line in your hand? And next time, will you surrender to the gust or rise as the pilot of your own descent? Even in the deepest fall, peace begins. The very moment you remember, you can still pull the cord. Stop the runaway movie in your head. How many times this week did your chest tighten before anything even happened? How many times did you rehearse a disaster that never came true? How many nights have you lost to scenes your mind directed, but life never filmed? Your mind might just be the greatest filmmaker alive, yet for some reason it insists on screening horror marathons only you attend. With zero budget, no actors, no studio, it still produces scenes so vivid your heart races as if it were real. A small delay in response from a friend turns into a betrayal scene. A presentation tomorrow becomes a public humiliation montage. Your mind directs, edits, scores, and screens it all before a single thing has happened. I once agreed to share a story at a small community event. The night before, my head produced the same film. Microphones squealing, faces frowning, silence stretching like judgment. That midnight screening dragged on, each cut intensifying the dread until dawn. By morning, I was drained, not from reality, but from the private theater in my mind. And when I actually stepped on stage, none of those horrors came true. Another time, a partner texted, "We need to talk." My head instantly projected a highlight reel of everything that could implode. My pulse spiked. But when we met, it was simply a surprise plan for a weekend trip. The suffering had been self-produced, paid for by my own attention. The point is not to erase imagination. Imagination is a gift. It built bridges, art, inventions. The problem is letting it default to horror genre every time. A wise director uses the same lens to film courage, joy, success. Here's your practice. The title card method. The next time a scary scene plays, pause and label it. Worst case fantasy. Then write or whisper 2 alternative trailers, one realistic, one hopeful. Example, instead of "I'll fail the meeting," say "I'll learn something new," or "They'll ask a question I can answer clearly." Run the new clip 3 times. Notice your body shift. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." The line is ancient, but it lands today. Most bruises are shadows, not strikes. Here's something I rarely share. When fear begins filming, stop and shoot your own reel. Close your eyes. Picture yourself handling the situation with calm precision, walking into the room, breathing steady, delivering one clear line. Run that reel for 60 seconds, 3 times. Neuroscience agrees. Your brain rewires on what it rehearses. Build this habit and fear loses its producer's chair. So I'll leave you this. What channel has your mind been tuned to this week, disaster or possibility? And if you held the remote, which scene would you broadcast first? Build this habit and fear slowly loses its producer's chair. And over time, your mind begins to change the genre of its stories, from fear to clarity to calm. Sometimes peace isn't about calming the storm. It's about calling it by its right name. Rename the feeling, reclaim the power. I once realized my head works like a bad office clerk. It stamps urgent on everything. A late text, a frown, even silence. No wonder I felt drained before the day even began. The real problem wasn't the feeling, it was the label I stuck on it. Have you ever noticed how quickly a single word can trap you? You feel your chest tighten and you call it anxiety. Instantly, the label multiplies the weight. But what if the same sensation were called energy? Suddenly, it becomes fuel. The body didn't change, only the word did. Emotions are like files on your desktop. The sensation is raw data, but the label is the file name. Call it panic and the system crashes. Call it readiness and the same file launches you forward. I remember standing before a group in the office, hands slightly shaking, heart pounding. The old me would whisper, "I'm too nervous. I can't do this." But that day I chose different words. This is energy. It means I care. My pulse didn't vanish, but it steadied into focus. What had been fear became fuel. Or think about training at the gym. On the last set, your arms tremble, breath heavy. If you say weakness, you'll quit. If you say growth, you'll push one more rep. Same body, new story. Here's something you can try right now. When a strong feeling hits, pause. Step 1, describe only the sensation, like weather data, fast pulse, warm face, tight chest. Step 2, choose a label that serves you. Focus, readiness, growth. Step 3, take one micro action aligned with the new name. Breathe once, speak one sentence, take one step forward. Do this 3 times a day and watch how quickly the dictionary of your inner life begins to change. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus reminded us, people are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. The view is often nothing more than the word we stamp on a moment. So ask yourself now, what feeling in your life has been mislabeled as weakness, when in truth it's just proof that you're alive and stretching? And what new name will you give it the next time it knocks on your door? Your words are the weather of your inner world. Speak softly and storms begin to fade. And once the storms have quieted, that's when you can finally see the system beneath them. Understand your mind like a system, not a mystery. I remember walking into a client's office with Kai, my mentor, by my side. The air was stiff, numbers on the table, questions sharper than knives. My mind wanted to spin. What if I fail? What if I lose this contract? But Kai didn't even flinch. He whispered, almost too soft to hear, "It's just a system." Watch it, he was right. The client's doubts triggered my loop. Cue, pressure, routine, panic, reward, self-sabotage. But that day, because Kai reminded me, I caught the pattern. Instead of spiraling, I breathed, slowed my voice, and answered one question at a time. By the end, the meeting turned, not because the client changed, but because I did. That was when I saw clearly, the mind isn't a mystery to fear, it's a system to study. And systems, once understood, can be redesigned. Think of your mind like a high-performance lab. Whatever you repeat, it cultures. Feed it panic, it grows panic. Feed it gratitude, it grows resilience. The petri dish never argues. It simply multiplies what you drop in. At 3 p.m. in a cafe, fatigue hits. Old loop, cue, yawn, routine, doom scroll, reward, stimulation. New loop, cue, yawn, routine, stand, walk outside, drink water, reward, clarity. Same system, different routine, new result. People think they fail because they're weak. No, they fail because they trust motivation. Motivation is smoke. Systems are steel. Notice the loops of your day, the cues, the habits, the tiny rewards. Awareness itself begins the redesign. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. He didn't mean brute force. He meant understanding the system and becoming its engineer, not its prisoner. Answer me honestly, who's been running your loops lately? The weary self that grabs shortcuts in the dark, or the deliberate self that engineers with clarity? One way or another, the system keeps running. The only question is, who's in charge? As you breathe now, imagine your mind as a quiet lab, where every thought is an experiment, not a verdict. And in that silence, you begin to see how calm can be engineered. And the more you understand your system, the easier it becomes to simply watch it work. Step back. You are the observer, not the storm. Silence. That's when the mind grows loudest. A single thought appears, tiny at first, and suddenly it swells into thunder. But here's the truth most people never learn. You are not the thunder, not even the cloud. You are the sky behind it all. Think of your thoughts as trains rushing through a station. Some are noisy, some fast, some late, some broken. The mistake is believing you must board every single one. The moment you step back onto the platform, you realize movement is constant, but you don't have to be dragged by it. I once found myself stuck in a traffic jam, horns blaring, minutes slipping away. In my head, a thought shouted, "You're late, everything's ruined, push forward." My grip tightened on the wheel, heat rising in my face. For a moment, I almost let anger drive, but I paused, inhaled deeply, and observed. This is frustration knocking at the door. By calling it out, I gave it form, and suddenly, it no longer steered me. The road did. Another time, during a family dinner, a relative's harsh comment stung. My first impulse was defense, but I caught the thought midstream. I whispered internally, "This too will pass through." And just like a train vanishing down the tracks, the anger dissolved quicker than it would have if I chased it. I'll admit, years ago, I was the kind of guy who snapped loud at anyone who crossed me. Looking back now, it wasn't strength at all. It was immaturity, a boy in a man's body. Here's what you can try. When a strong emotion hits, don't fight it. Instead, label it softly. This is worry. This is frustration. Breathe in fully. Breathe out longer. Visualize yourself standing on the platform while the train roars past. No need to ride, just watch. Science confirms what the Stoics already knew. Naming lowers intensity. Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Observing before reacting is the hinge of mastery, so I'll leave you with this. Next time your mind floods with noise, will you leap aboard the first frantic train, or will you stay on the platform, steady, calm, watching it pass? The station is yours. The choice is yours. Notice how observing brings space. The train keeps moving, but you are no longer inside it. You are the stillness behind motion, and from that stillness, every practice begins. Train your mind daily to conquer negativity. Stop waiting for one book, one video, one breakthrough to fix you. It won't. Discipline isn't lightning, it's firewood. You feed it daily or it dies. I used to think a single insight would flip a switch forever. But the next morning, the same old fears knocked on the door. Real mastery isn't in the spark, it's in the routine. Every day you train or every day you drift, there is no neutral. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't say, "I did it yesterday, I'm fine for the month." You repeat it because hygiene is maintenance, not a miracle. Your mind is the same. Negativity builds up like plaque. If you don't clean it daily, it owns you. One of my lowest points came when I stopped training my mind. Bills piled up, calls went unanswered. My head swarmed with what ifs. I waited for motivation, but it never came. Then Kai said quietly, "You don't train when you feel strong. You train so you can stand when you're weak." That line cut through the fog. From then I built a nightly habit, 5 minutes with a notebook, writing down what triggered me, what I could control, what I had to release. The habit didn't erase pain overnight, but it gave me traction. I used to believe I'd journal like Marcus Aurelius. In reality, some nights all I managed was scribbling. Today sucked. I survived. But even that kept the loop alive, and survival was enough to grow from. Here's something you can do tonight. Before you sleep, grab a page. Write 3 lines. What made me anxious today? What did I do well? What will I release before tomorrow? Do it daily for 7 days. Watch the patterns emerge. You'll begin to see your mind's traps and your strength. Epictetus once said, "No great thing is created suddenly." Training the mind is no different from training the body. 1 rep doesn't change you. Thousands do. So I ask you, Are you going to let tomorrow arrive with the same untrained loops, or will you start chiseling today? One pause, one breath, one page at a time. And remember this, conquering negativity doesn't mean you'll never feel it. It means it won't own you. It means the storm rages, but you stand. It means you write your own lines, not the old script. So answer in your own heart. Will you leave here a passenger of your emotions or the trainer of your mind? The choice is yours, and it begins tonight. Each night is a quiet repetition. You fall, you rise, you write, you breathe. That's the training. That's the peace. And as you close your eyes tonight, let that peace stay. You've walked through every layer with me. 7 steps, 7 perspectives, 7 tools. But remember, none of them matter unless they live in you tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. The truth is simple. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are a mind in training. And every thought you redirect, every pause you take, every word you choose with intention, these are victories. Small ones, yes, but small victories become unshakable strength. So carry this with you, the next wave of anger, the next spark of fear, the next shadow of anxiety. They are not your masters. They are your teachers. And you are the one who decides what to learn and how to rise. Breathe once with me now. Inhale, hold, release. You've just proven you can own a moment, own enough of them, and you'll own your life. The storm is real, but so are you. And nothing is stronger than a mind trained in daily truth. Now rest your thoughts. Let them drift like clouds over calm water. Tomorrow will arrive quietly, and so will your strength. You are safe now. You are home within yourself. And when you wake again, we'll go even deeper. The next chapter begins where silence meets strength. They don't respect you, and deep down you know it. They interrupt, they joke at your expense, they treat your time like loose change. Call it what it is, disrespect. And here's the truth no one dares to say. Every time you let it slide, you train them to keep going. But what if the power to end it wasn't in shouting louder, but in standing quieter? Not in shouting louder, not in defending longer, not in explaining harder. Imagine being a mountain in a storm. Lightning cracks, winds howl, yet the rock doesn't flinch. You've rested your mind. Now it's time to rise, not into battle, but into boundaries. That's what today is about. Not desperate reactions, not endless explanations, but learning how to turn yourself into something unshakable. I'll show you 5 ways that work anywhere, in the office, around family, at dinner tables, even in the moments where a stranger thinks they can walk over you. These are not tricks, they are principles that flip the power dynamic without you saying a word. And when you reach the 4th part of this video, I've prepared something special for you, a gift you can use instantly, a simple tool that will change how you set boundaries forever. So listen carefully, because the moment you stop dancing to the tune of disrespect, you start hearing the deeper rhythm of your own worth. That's what the Stoics understood, and that's what we will reclaim here together. Now let me ask you, who is the first face that appears in your mind when I say they don't respect you? Hold that thought, you'll need it as we begin. The power of the silent stare. Disrespect often comes dressed in small disguises, an interruption, a smirk, a careless comment dropped like a stone in the middle of your day. Most people instinctively fire back, raise their voices, or drown in explanations. That's what the world expects, noise against noise. But there's another weapon, sharper than words, colder than silence itself, the stare. The long, calm, unbroken gaze that flips the game without you moving a muscle. I once sat in a boardroom where a man twice my age kept cutting me off mid-sentence. For the first 5 minutes, I smiled politely, tried to re-enter the conversation. It only fed him more space. Then I stopped. I leaned back, folded my arms, and fixed my eyes on him. No blinking, no tension, just a quiet presence. 3 seconds, 4, 5. The air grew heavy. In that silence, something shifted, not out there, but inside me. People around the table shifted in their chairs. He fumbled his words, then broke eye contact. And from that moment on, he never interrupted me again. 3 seconds of silence can do what 30 sentences never will. Why does this work? Because people who disrespect are often searching for fuel. Your flustered defense, your nervous laugh, your angry retort. They feed on that energy. When you withdraw it, when you simply stare, you hand them nothing. Suddenly the mirror flips. They are left to see themselves, exposed and awkward. In that silence, they realize you are not their toy. You are their boundary. Here's the contrarian truth. The silent stare is not passive aggression. It's self-possession. It is you declaring without a sound, I am not playing your game. Think of a lighthouse in a storm. It doesn't scream back at the thunder. It simply shines unmoved, reminding every ship where the line is. And yes, this is uncomfortable at first. I used to laugh off rude comments, convincing myself it was not worth making a scene. But deep down, I was shrinking. The first time I held that steady gaze, I felt my heart race. Yet what filled me afterward was not guilt, but power. For once, I hadn't bent. I had stood. And no, you don't have to glare like a movie villain. This isn't about acting scary, it's about being steady. Try it this week. Next time someone crosses the line, don't argue, don't scramble for words. Just stop, breathe, and look at them. Count 3 steady seconds. Watch how the atmosphere bends. Because the truth is, respect is rarely asked. It is enforced by the way you carry yourself. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." The stare is exactly that. You don't descend into their chaos, you let them collapse into their own reflection. And every time you hold that silence, you remind yourself that your worth is not up for auction. It is already written in how you stand. So let me ask you, who in your life keeps testing your boundaries? And what would happen if, instead of arguing back, you gave them nothing but the weight of your calm eyes? If that story hit home, remember, it's not about winning moments. It's about reclaiming presence. Silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. We grow up told that if we don't respond, we lose. But here's the reversal. The loudest statement you'll ever make is sometimes the one you never say. I once stood in line at a cafe when someone behind me mocked the way I ordered my drink. Years ago, I would have fired back, maybe even turned it into a heated exchange. Instead, I raised an eyebrow, stayed silent, and let his words hang in the air. Within seconds, his smirk collapsed under its own weight. Silence became the answer, and the answer was heavier than any comeback. I've also seen this play out in business. At a networking event, a competitor I hadn't spoken to in years came up with a smirk and tossed a comment about how my company was still surviving somehow. He wanted me defensive, eager to prove my success in front of the crowd. Instead, I looked at him calmly and said, "Surviving takes no effort. Thriving, however, demands character." Then I let the silence do the rest. The room shifted, eyes turned toward him, not me. His smirk faltered because in that one sentence, everyone understood who had really lost control. Silence didn't make me small, it made me centered. If their insult needs your outrage to survive, let it starve. Why does silence work? Because people who disrespect want you to fund their drama with your energy. Every defense you give, every explanation you throw out, it pays their bills. When you don't engage, you bankrupt them. They're left holding their own poison, and poison doesn't taste good when you drink it alone. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You always own the option of having no opinion." Silence is that option in action. You're telling the world, I don't owe every attack a piece of myself. I don't hand out free rent in my head. And let's be real, I used to think silence meant I'd look dumb. Truth is, half the time I opened my mouth, I proved myself right. Silence is not running away, it's anchoring yourself. It's pausing long enough to let the other person reveal their emptiness. And often they do. Watch how quickly a sarcastic jab turns awkward when no one applauds. Notice how a passive-aggressive question dies when you don't supply the fuel. Think of silence as a shield. When someone fires arrows of disrespect, your words often become the surface they stick to. But when you stay silent, there's nothing to pierce, only air. Their arrows fall flat. And here's the paradox. The quieter you are, the louder their own insecurity echoes back to them. Practical step. This week, pick one situation where you normally defend yourself too much. When it comes, take one deep breath, look at the person and say, nothing. Let the silence stretch 3 beats, then calmly carry on as if nothing was said. You'll feel the power of choosing yourself over their performance. Silence is not surrender, it's the refusal to finance nonsense. And every pause you choose is a gift back to yourself, a piece of peace returned. So ask yourself, which battle in your life would disappear overnight if you simply refuse to reply? Stop explaining your life. How many of your choices are still on trial in someone else's court? Why do you keep handing strangers the gavel to judge what belongs only to you? I remember when I left a stable job to start something riskier. My relatives circled me like jurors. Why would you leave security? How will you survive? At first, I delivered rehearsed speeches, my plans, my reasons, my charts. The more I explained, the more holes they poked. Until one day I answered with just 6 words, because it felt right for me. The silence that followed was priceless. And it's not only family who asks for explanations. A former classmate once bumped into me and half-joking asked why I wasn't chasing the corporate ladder like everyone else. I just smiled and said, because I'm building a different one. The conversation ended there. No need to justify, no need to convince. That's when I realized peace doesn't come from being understood, it comes from not needing to be. The moment you stop playing defense, their curiosity runs out of fuel. Explanation is often a search for permission you don't need. Here's the contrarian truth. People rarely ask why to understand. They ask to pull you back into their comfort zone. If you dare to live differently, your freedom threatens their routine. By demanding your reasons, they're really asking you to shrink so they can stay the same size. In social circles, it's no different. A friend once asked me why I didn't drink at a party. Years ago, I would have launched into health benefits, self-control, discipline. That night, I simply said, I don't feel like it. No sermon, no spreadsheet, just choice. His eyes blinked and the conversation moved on. My peace stayed intact. Have you noticed how much lighter life feels when you stop defending it? I used to be the guy giving TED Talks for every personal decision. Honestly, half the time I bored myself. Epictetus reminded us, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish. Refusing to explain your life may look foolish to others, but it's wisdom in disguise. Because the less you explain, the more you affirm that your life is yours to live, not theirs to audit. Think of your choices like a house. Every time you over-explain, it's like leaving the front door wide open, inviting strangers to walk in and rearrange your furniture. Soon, the place no longer feels like home. But when you close that door politely, firmly, you reclaim the space as your own sanctuary. That's what refusing to explain really is. Closing the door to noise, keeping the peace inside. Practical step. Write down 3 decisions you've made that you constantly justify. Next to each one, practice the answer, because I chose to. Repeat it aloud until the words feel natural. This isn't arrogance, it's liberation. Your life is not a courtroom. Stop putting yourself on trial, and the verdict was written the day you chose. And every time you stop justifying, you breathe lighter, as if your soul just dropped a weight it was never meant to carry. So let me ask you, which choice of yours no longer needs a witness, no longer needs an explanation, but simply needs you to stand by it? And maybe tonight, just whisper it to yourself, the one choice you'll no longer explain. Distance is respect. Now open your eyes to something harder. The people who drain your peace. Ask yourself, who drains you the most? And why do they still have a key to your life? Sometimes the most radical form of respect is distance. Not a dramatic explosion, not a public announcement, just a quiet decision to step back, to move someone from the front row of your life to the balcony, or even outside the theater entirely. I once had a longtime friend who turned every conversation into a subtle jab. My career, mocked, my family, questioned. Even the shoes I wore became punchlines. At first, I told myself, it's just his way, maybe I'm overreacting. So I stayed, week after week, laughing off the insults. But over time, I noticed something darker. Before meeting him, my chest tightened. I was rehearsing excuses before he even spoke. That's when I realized it wasn't friendship anymore, it was erosion. And erosion never announces itself. It just takes you grain by grain. And erosion doesn't stop until you move the rocks away from the water. Not everyone deserves a VIP pass to your energy. Here's the hidden law. Access is power. The closer someone stands to you, the more influence they wield over your emotions, your confidence, your time. Keep disrespectful people close, and you're basically giving them a blank check to spend your peace. Distance isn't cruelty, it's economics. Epictetus once said, if someone is mistaken, instruct them kindly. If you cannot, keep silent. I'll add, if silence isn't enough, add distance, because not everyone will learn by being told. Some only learn by losing their access to you. Think of it this way, your life isn't a theme park with unlimited entry. It's more like an exclusive club. And sorry, some memberships expire. When they cross the line, draw it darker. Boundaries ignored must become boundaries undeniable, and every inch of distance you create is really space for your own growth, room for your soul to breathe again. Practical step. Try the access map exercise. Draw 4 circles on a page. Center. Full access. Next ring, warm access. Then, limited access. Outer ring, no access. Place people where they belong, not where guilt tells you to. Because here's the deeper twist. Distance doesn't mean hate, it means clarity. It means admitting that loyalty without respect is just a slow form of self-abandonment. Distance isn't betrayal. Distance isn't cruelty. Distance is self-respect in motion. And here's your gift. something you won't find anywhere else. Tonight, write a peace contract with yourself, just one sentence. I will no longer stay close to what constantly makes me small. Sign it, date it, fold it, and put it in your wallet. Next time you feel guilty about creating distance, touch that piece of paper. It's not just ink. It's your own promise staring back at you. So let me ask you, who in your life still has a front row seat they haven't earned? And what would shift if you move them to the back row or out of the theater altogether? Walk taller than their words. I don't have a resting, angry face. I just stopped auditioning for approval. Maybe you have too, and that's why you're here. That's the truth most people don't realize. Confidence isn't about pretending to be untouchable. It's about carrying yourself in a way that tells the world, I know who I am. Your words don't change that. Disrespect is never about your worth. It's always about their insecurity. Every insult, every sarcastic jab is really an invitation. Come down to my level. And the most powerful reply is to stay standing taller than the noise. I've seen this in the workplace. A manager once made a sly remark about a colleague's idea during a meeting, expecting laughs. Instead, that colleague sat upright, shoulders steady, eyes calm, and carried on presenting as if the comment didn't exist. Within seconds, the room's focus returned to the ideas, not the insult. Confidence redirected the spotlight. I've seen it in everyday life too. One weekend, a neighbor looked at my old car and joked loudly that I should finally upgrade if business was really going well. Years ago, I might have chuckled awkwardly and defended myself. This time I stood tall, met his eyes, and calmly said, I invest in what lasts. No drama, no apology. The words landed, and the silence after made everyone nearby glance his way instead of mine. The conversation ended, but the balance of respect quietly shifted. When your body speaks confidence, their words lose oxygen. Because confidence is not noise, it's quiet power. Seneca once wrote, no man can have a peaceful life who thinks too much about lengthening it. Translate that here. No person can walk tall if they're constantly bending for approval. The point isn't to look powerful, it's to live in alignment with your worth. Posture becomes philosophy. And let's be real, I used to hunch like I was trying to disappear in a room. Not stoic, just awkward. I thought blending in kept me safe. In reality, it only made me invisible. Standing tall is not just physical, it's mental posture. It's walking into a room with shoulders open, eyes steady, breath grounded. Even when disrespect flies at you, your stance says, I will not shrink to fit your smallness. Their words can scratch, but they can't scar unless you bend to let them. And each time you hold your head high, you remind yourself that worth isn't borrowed, it's carried within you. Practical step. Tomorrow morning, practice the posture protocol. Stand up, shoulders back, chin level. Take 10 slow steps across the room, breathing evenly. Say nothing. Just feel how different the world looks when you rise into your full height. Do this daily until it becomes second nature, because confidence rehearsed in private becomes power displayed in public. Here's the twist. Confidence unsettles people who thrive on disrespect. They want you small so they can feel tall. But when you refuse to bow, their illusion collapses. You don't need to shout. You don't need to prove. You just need to walk as if your value is already written. Because it is. So let me ask you, the next time someone throws a dig your way, will you let it bend you? Or will you let your posture declare that you are unshaken, unbroken, and already enough? Disrespect will never vanish from the world. You've seen it in meetings at family tables, in business halls, and across fences with neighbors. But now you hold 5 ways to answer without losing yourself. The silent stare, silence as your answer, refusing to explain, creating distance, and walking taller than their words. Each one is simple. Each one is powerful. And together they form something greater than tactics. They are a philosophy of self-respect. Because the truth is, you never teach people how to value you by your defenses. You teach them by your standards. Respect that is begged rarely lasts, but respect enforced by your presence endures. And every time you choose silence, distance, or dignity over chaos, you remind yourself that you were never small. You were only learning to stand. You were never small. You were only unfolding into your full height. So carry this with you. When the noise rises, you do not have to join it. When the world presses down, you do not have to shrink. You can breathe, hold your posture, and let your life declare its own worth. Say this softly to yourself. My self-respect is not negotiable. My peace is not for sale. My worth is already written. Carry these words quietly with you. Boundaries aren't walls. They're mirrors that show you who truly deserves to stay. Now breathe once more. You've learned how to hold silence, how to hold distance, and how to hold yourself. The next chapter waits quietly, where peace becomes strength and strength becomes peace again. And when you're finally calm enough to see clearly, the truth begins to reveal itself. Quietly, brutally, beautifully. You've been lied to about strength. They told you it looks like control, like always smiling, like never letting the world see your cracks. But here's the truth. Real strength isn't the stone face. It's the crack where the light dares to enter. The same peace that once calmed your storms will now test your truth. What remains when the noise is gone? That's what this chapter will show you. That is not weakness. That is the battlefield where your next self is being forged. These next lessons aren't theories. They're 6 mirrors, each revealing a truth you've tried to avoid, but need to face. One by one, they'll meet you exactly where you stand, not where you pretend to be. So as you step from silence into truth, remember, peace was never the final stop. It was preparation for clarity. You'll see why your worst day is a door, why your sensitivity is radar, why losing it all gives you back your name, why broken dreams are disguised instructors, why struggle is sacred, and why beginning again is the bravest art you'll ever practice. Don't run, don't scroll. This isn't background noise. It's a mirror. Every line here is designed to sting, to shake, and then to set you free. So let me ask you, are you ready to stop rehearsing strength and finally live it? Take a slow breath. What you're about to hear won't comfort you, but it will cleanse you. Your worst day isn't a verdict. It's a door. Everyone tells you to avoid bad days like they're contagious. Boss yells at you, walk it off. Relationship cracks, distract yourself. Money troubles, pretend it's temporary. We've been trained to believe a terrible day is proof something is broken in us. But let me flip this. Your worst day is not the judge. It's the doorway. Picture this. A manager prepares for a presentation, slides flawless, voice rehearsed. But when the projector dies and silence swallows the room, the image of competence broke down. Humiliating? Yes. End of the world? Number. That blackout forced him to find his real authority, not in technology, but in presence. He walked out scarred but stronger. Or a young mother at the grocery store, realizing she can't afford everything in the cart. She feels the eyes around her, the sting of shame. But later, that moment becomes her ignition to rebuild finances with grit she didn't know she had. The pain wasn't the ending. It was the blueprint. I've watched travelers miss flights, couples argue at midnight, friends break down in cars after draining days. What all these scenes reveal is simple. The fallout isn't punishment, it's exposure. It strips away illusions about control, comfort, or permanence. And when illusions fall, truth stands. Here's where Stoicism speaks. Epictetus once wrote, "Circumstances don't define the man, they reveal him." He wasn't selling optimism. He was enslaved, injured, stripped of status, yet he learned that loss doesn't shrink you, it unmasks you. The day you thought was your execution might be your initiation. Contrarian thought. Comfort makes you fragile. Pain forges you durable. Think about muscles. No strain, no growth. But unlike the gym, life doesn't ask permission before loading the weight. That meeting collapse, that breakup, that empty bank account, they are forced reps for the soul. But let's pause. I'm not telling you to romanticize misery. A terrible day still hurts. Tears still sting. The goal isn't to pretend you're unshaken. The goal is to use the shaking as a compass. The worst day is not a wall, it's a corridor. And where it leads depends on how you walk it. Here's your practice. Write down the last worst day you had. Don't sanitize it. The raw version. Under it, list 3 truths that collapse exposed. Maybe it showed you a boundary you ignored. Maybe it revealed someone's loyalty or disloyalty. Maybe it exposed your own silence where words were needed. Circle 1. For the next week, treat it not as a wound, but as a workout. Train it daily, like lifting a barbell you once dropped. I used to believe ordering takeout after a terrible day would fix me. All I got was cold fries and a warmer waistline. The truth? Numbing is easier than transforming, but transformation is the only cure that sticks. So here's the question I want you to carry. What did your worst day stop you from pretending? Because if you can answer that honestly, the door is already opening. Feeling deeply is not a liability. It's radar. Ever been told you're too sensitive? Maybe they said it with a sigh, maybe as a jab, but the message was always the same. Feel less, toughen up, stop caring so much. Let me ask you, what if that wasn't a flaw at all? What if it was your hidden radar? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Numbness isn't strength, it's blindness. The people who feel deeply notice storms before they arrive. They catch the shift in a friend's tone, the tension in a meeting before anyone speaks, the beauty in a sunset that others walk past. Sensitivity isn't weakness, it's high-definition awareness in a world stuck on low resolution. At the office, I once saw an analyst stop a disastrous project because he sensed the unease in a client's silence, long before the data caught up. In a family kitchen, a father noticed his daughter's "I'm fine" didn't match her eyes. His sensitivity prevented months of hidden struggle. On the street, a stranger returned a lost wallet because something in his chest wouldn't let him ignore it. That instinct wasn't logical, but it was right. Feeling deeply doesn't weaken you, it roots you. What drains life isn't the flood of emotion, it's the drought of indifference. Numbness isn't armor, it's absence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The mind is dyed with the color of its thoughts." Too often we hear this as a call to paint only in neutral tones. But think about it, a fabric with no color is invisible. Your emotions, when held with wisdom, are the dyes that make your life vivid. So why does society shame depth? Because it's easier to manage people who are numb. A numb worker never pushes back. A numb partner never demands truth. A numb citizen never resists injustice. Sensitivity is disruptive. It refuses to play dead. That's why your depth is an advantage, not a curse. Quick check. What did your body just tell you? Tight chest or open breath? Name it. Practice for this week. When you feel something strong, anger, joy, sadness, pause and ask, what signal is this sending? Treat it as data. Instead of apologizing for tears or excitement, name the reason out loud. I'm moved because this matters. That act reframes emotion from shame into strength. And let me break the heaviness with a smile. I once thought emotions were like receipts. You tuck them away in a drawer, hoping they'll disappear, but the drawer always jams. And when it finally bursts open, you're buried under paper cuts. Turns out, facing the feelings early is far cheaper than cleaning the mess later. Reflection. Next time someone calls you too sensitive, hear it as proof that your radar is working. Because the real question is, would you rather walk blind or see the storm before it breaks? Losing everything can give you back your name. There are days when endings don't knock politely. It storms in and empties your table, your gym, your status, your relationship, the future you thought was guaranteed. At first, it feels like the ground beneath you has dissolved, but often that falling apart doesn't erase you. It introduces you to yourself. I once sat in an empty apartment, boxes stacked like tombstones of a life gone. In one night, I was stripped of my company, contracts, even loyal friends. For a moment, I thought I had no identity left. But in that silence, I see it clearly. When everything that can be taken is gone, what remains is what cannot. I was no longer a title or a role. I was a man with a pen and the will to keep breathing. And that was enough to begin again. Loss is brutal, but it's also honest. A colleague once told me after being fired, I didn't just lose my job, I lost the illusion that the company loved me. Another friend who went through a divorce said, I thought I had a marriage, but really I just needed to let go of the mask. In both cases, the loss cut deep, but it carved away the costumes. Marcus Aurelius wrote, loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight. He didn't write this from a safe study. He buried children, faced betrayal, and watched an empire weaken. His reminder was this: what disappears was never fully yours. What remains is your character, your choices, your ability to grow. Think of a tree in winter. To the eye, it looks dead. Branches stripped, sky gray, silence everywhere. But underground, unseen, roots are digging deeper. Life is gathering for spring. That's what loss does. It disguises preparation as emptiness. But here's the question, was it really loss, or was it life clearing space for a truer version of you? Practice for this week. Write down one thing you've lost that still stings. Under it, list what it forced you to gain: patience, clarity, courage, humility. Each morning, read that gain before you start your day. It rewires the brain to see loss not as subtraction, but as exchange. In moments like that, clarity doesn't explode with fireworks. It slips in like a whisper you almost miss, a line small enough to fit in your pocket, yet sharp enough to cut through the noise. 4 words became my survival code: less noise, more north. I keep it on my lock screen like a secret key. When the world screams for attention, that line reminds me, the only real task is to walk toward the direction that matters. When I first lost everything, I expected the universe to send me thunder, lightning, maybe an angel with paperwork. Instead, all I got was a landlord reminding me the rent was due. And that's when it hit me. The sign is rarely cosmic. The sign is practical. It's life demanding that you stand up. So here's the question that remains. When life strips away the titles, the possessions, the attachments, who are you without them? And will you be brave enough to let that be the beginning, not the end? The dream that died was doing its job. We're taught from childhood, chase your dreams, guard them like treasure, never let them go. But here's the uncomfortable twist. Some dreams are scaffolds, not homes. They're meant to hold you up for a while and then come down. The dream that falls apart isn't always your enemy. Sometimes it's the teacher you didn't invite but desperately needed. Think about the entrepreneur who burns 3 years on a startup, only to watch it fold. In the ashes, she discovers the skills, grit, and network that become the backbone of her next better venture. Or the relationship you swore was forever. When it ends, you grieve, but later realize it freed you from settling for less than you deserve. Even the trip you planned, the one that got canceled at the airport gate, becomes the night you meet a stranger who changes your perspective more than any city could. I'll admit I once believed if I planned every detail, life would owe me the outcome. I built timelines, spreadsheets, even color-coded strategies, as if fate respected Excel. When the plan unraveled, I realized the universe doesn't read our charts. Failure wasn't betrayal, it was correction. Not punishment, not proof you're unworthy, just correction. Epictetus put it sharply, don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do. He wasn't asking us to surrender ambition. He was warning us against worshiping one specific outcome. The Stoic point is simple. Your worth isn't tied to the script in your head. The reroute may be the real road. Imagine a river meeting a boulder. At first, it slams head-on, furious, white foam everywhere. But the river doesn't quit. It bends, it carves, it flows around. Years later, it has shaped an entirely new valley. That's what a dead dream does. It redirects you to a landscape you couldn't see from the old path. Practice for this week. Write down one dream that collapsed, a career path, a relationship, a plan. Under it, list 3 things it gave you anyway: skills, lessons, connections, perspective. Choose one and use it now. Build with the bricks failure left you. Flexion moment. Maybe the dream you lost was too small for the person you're becoming. Maybe it wasn't rejection, but redirection. So let me ask you, what dream are you still mourning as if it was your destiny, when in truth, it was only your scaffolding? And are you ready to thank it for holding you up, then let it fall away? The holiness hidden in your hardest battles. Take one slow breath with me. Feel the air fill your lungs. Notice that despite every storm you've endured, this breath is still yours. That's where we begin, because your trials don't mean you're broken. Struggle is proof you're alive. Our culture teaches us to erase hardship as quickly as possible. Pop a pill, buy a distraction, swipe past the discomfort. But what if the weight you're carrying isn't a glitch in the system? What if it's the design? Not a punishment, but the exact pressure that forges who you're becoming. Think of the father who stumbles through divorce, but learns tenderness he never had before. Think of the young employee crushed by layoffs, who later becomes the leader everyone trusts, because he knows what it's like to be forgotten. Think of the woman battling depression, who learns to spot pain in others before they even speak. These hardships are brutal, but they are sacred. They are credentials no classroom can award. The Stoics had a phrase, amor fati, love your fate. Marcus Aurelius wrote, accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together. He wasn't saying enjoy suffering. He was pointing to the holiness of what hardship shapes: empathy, endurance, compassion. Imagine a cracked clay pot placed in sunlight. Light spills not through the smooth surface, but through the fracture lines. That's your life. The very cracks you wanted to hide are where the light gets in and where it shines out. If embrace the struggle sounds like a brochure, fine. Call it free training and charge life for the lesson. And let's lighten it a little. I used to think, if I just repeated enough positive mantras, I'd bypass struggle. I am calm. I am powerful. And then my coffee spilled on my white shirt right before a meeting. Turns out mantras don't stop chaos, but they can remind you to laugh at the small mess while you tackle the real battles. Hold this 1 second longer. What if the crack is not where you end, but where you begin? Practice for this week. Write down the hardest struggle you've faced this year. Next to it, write the virtue it's carving in you. Patience, courage, humility, love. Each morning, speak that virtue out loud as if it's already yours. Train your mind to see the sacred, not just the scar. Pause here. Think of one battle you're fighting right now. Could it be the very training ground for the wisdom you'll need later? So I'll leave you with this question. Will you let your struggles harden you into bitterness or soften you into wisdom? The holiness isn't in avoiding the fire. It's in walking through it and discovering you were the flame all along. The bravery it takes to begin again. Starting over looks noble on paper, but let's be honest, it terrifies most of us. At 25, reinvention feels like adventure. At 45, it feels like failure. So let me ask you, is it really failure, or is it proof you've outgrown the costume life once gave you? I remember standing outside an old workshop that once belonged to Kai, the quiet mentor who gave me a second chance when the world thought I was finished. My pockets nearly empty, my past burned behind me. But inside that quiet wooden space, I picked up a tool with hands that had once only signed contracts. That day, I wasn't returning to glory. I was learning how to begin with nothing but will. And strangely, that was enough. Look around you. A man leaves a corporate role to teach high school kids, trading prestige for purpose. A mother restarts her career after years at home, stepping into interviews with both fear and fire. A friend ends a long-dead relationship, facing lonely nights, but also mornings filled with peace. Starting over isn't erasing, it's composting. Every failure, every skill, every scar becomes the soil of the next chapter. Seneca once wrote, "Life is long if you know how to use it." He wasn't talking about years on a calendar. He meant depth. To begin again is to refuse shallow repetition and step into a life that actually breathes. Picture an old tree struck by lightning. For a moment it looks ruined, blackened trunk, smoke curling upward. But seasons later, green shoots sprout from the cracks, stronger than before. That's what it means to restart. Not denial of the strike, but rebirth through it. Let's break the heaviness with honesty. I once thought reinventing myself meant changing my wardrobe. New shoes, new jacket, new me. Truth, I still carry the same doubts, just better dressed. Reinvention doesn't start in the closet, it starts in the spine. Practice for this week. Choose one area you've outgrown, a chum, a routine, a relationship dynamic. Write the smallest possible first step toward change, not 10, just one. Do it within 24 hours. Don't wait for courage. Courage is built in the act, not before it. Reflection. Maybe you're afraid people won't understand your new beginning. Let them misunderstand. You're changing the route, not the destination. They didn't live your nights of doubt, and they won't carry your mornings of clarity. So here's the question. Will you reach the end of your life and say, I stayed safe in a story I had outgrown? Or will you risk the unknown and prove, even to yourself, that reinvention is possible? And if you've come this far, you've already proven one thing. Peace isn't the absence of storms, it's the strength to walk through them awake. But together they tell you one thing: you are not broken, you are becoming. The Stoics never promised an easy life. They promised a worthy one. Pain, endings, doubt, reinvention, these are not signs of failure. They are the hardships that carve resilience. So remember this: every struggle you've survived is evidence that you are still here. And still here means still capable. Still here means unfinished. Still here means you have chapters left to write. Now rest in that knowing. You are not broken. You are breaking open. And from that opening, light enters again. But light also reveals what still hides in the shadow. The part of you that wants not only peace, but presence. The kind that makes people pause when you walk by. The kind that doesn't chase attention, but naturally draws it. You're ready to understand that now. Stop pretending you don't wonder. Every man does. You walk into a room, conversations shift, eyes flicker, but you shrug it off as coincidence. What if it isn't? What if the most magnetic force in your life has been hiding in plain sight, inside you, all along? Here's the paradox. Real presence is like gravity. You never see it, but it moves oceans, bends time, and makes people orbit without knowing why. Most men try to chase attraction like a trophy, but Stoic wisdom reveals what makes you unforgettable is not what you perform, it's what you radiate when you're not performing at all. Not tricks, not shallow hacks, but daily practices rooted in how you live, breathe, and carry yourself through the world. So let me ask you, are you ready to stop chasing validation and start recognizing the power already leaking through your everyday life? Then lean in, watch closely, and let's begin. Staying calm when others get nervous. You've seen it before. A man who's usually confident suddenly fumbles his words, adjusts his shirt, or laughs too loudly when you walk in. You call it awkwardness, but awkwardness is only the surface. Underneath, it's a silent admission. Your presence has tilted his balance. This isn't about intimidation. It's about resonance. Something in you activates something in him, and his unconscious scrambles to keep up. Like a compass needle thrown off by a hidden magnet, his body reveals what his pride tries to hide. The worst mistake you could make? Dimming yourself to make him comfortable. Your calm silence is not a threat. It's a mirror. His nervousness is his story, not yours. The Stoics would remind you, the value of a thing does not shrink because someone else cannot carry its weight. So next time you see this, don't apologize for it. Notice it. Breathe into it. Practice holding your ground for 10 seconds longer than you normally would. That simple pause teaches you the art of owning space. And here's the real question. How many times have you mistaken another man's discomfort as proof of your weakness, when in fact it was proof of your gravity? Owning attention without forcing it. You're walking through a cafe, a meeting, or down an airport corridor. Someone glances once. That's ordinary. But when they turn back for a second look, that's a different language. It's the world telling you, you carry something that lingers. You probably dismiss it. They're just curious. Maybe my tie is crooked, but no. The second glance is rarely about details. It's about energy that refused to pass unnoticed. A spark tugged at them, and their body obeyed before their mind could catch up. Or maybe they're just wondering why a grown man still can't walk straight without spilling coffee on himself. Like I did yesterday. Think of it like a campfire. You don't stare at a campfire once and walk away. You find yourself drawn back again and again for reasons beyond explanation. That's how magnetism works. The glance is the proof. Instead of shrugging it off, train yourself to meet that second glance with steady eyes, not aggressive, not seeking approval, just a calm recognition. In that moment, you affirm silently, I see the pull, and I am not surprised. And here's the thought to wrestle with. What if the stares you've spent years explaining away were actually the world showing you who you've been all along? Letting confidence show, even on off days. There are mornings when you stand in the mirror and see only fatigue, lines deeper than yesterday, a suit that feels unremarkable, eyes dulled by routine. And yet, that same day, someone leans over in the office or a stranger in a cafe and says, "Man, you've got something about you." This is the paradox. The days you feel least magnetic are often the days when your presence cuts deepest, because you're not trying, you're not performing, you're just there. And that's when the real signal leaks through. Think of Michael Corleone in The Godfather. He rarely smiles, he rarely boasts. But in the silence, in the calm gaze, everyone feels it. His power is most visible when he appears least concerned with showing it. That's why compliments land when you feel undeserving. Others are seeing a light you've gone blind to. Their words are not exaggerations. They are reminders. And let me ask you this. How many times have you robbed yourself of your own reflection by refusing to believe the compliments were true? Attracting others through steadiness. Notice how often the smallest requests come your way. Someone at work asks for your opinion on a detail they could Google in 30 seconds. A friend lingers, asking casual questions that don't really need answers. Even in the supermarket, a stranger asks you about a product you clearly don't work for. On the surface, these are trivial, but beneath, it's the unconscious mind building bridges. People want proximity to what steadies them, even if their conscious mind invents flimsy reasons. It's like travel. You've probably stood in an airport terminal where no one knows anyone else. Yet somehow, without words, a few people drift closer to the calm traveler, leaning against the wall. Rather than the restless man pacing, steadiness organizes space. People orbit the anchor. The danger is to misinterpret this as nuisance. Why do people always come to me with silly things? But Stoic wisdom flips it. The trivial request is not about the answer. It's about the anchor. And maybe ask yourself, if strangers and colleagues keep finding invisible threads to draw near you, could it be that your gravity is the very thing you've been underestimating? Leaving energy that lingers after you leave. You never notice it when you walk in. You shake hands, you talk, maybe you laugh a little, and to you it feels ordinary. But watch closely what happens when you leave. The air shifts, conversations scatter. Someone glances toward the door as if a piece of the balance just walked out with you. That's the paradox of energy. It's rarely praised in the moment, but it's always missed in the silence afterward. True masculine energy doesn't always announce itself. It lingers, like the echo of a song that won't fade. I remember returning from 2 weeks away and finding Elena, the gentle woman I love, at the children's center where she volunteers. She smiled when she saw me, then sighed. Everyone missed you. Even the laughter felt thinner without you here. That's when it struck me. Presence isn't about filling a room with noise. It's the quiet force that holds it together. And here's the twist most men overlook. People rarely tell you this. They won't pull you aside and say, "Your absence changed the atmosphere." They'll simply feel it. And that unspoken recognition is one of the clearest signals of real power. So here's your practice. The next time you leave a meeting, a family gathering, or even a casual dinner with friends, pause. Ask yourself, what trace did I leave behind? Not in words, not in performance, but in energy. If the room feels emptier, you've already said more than enough. Presence isn't loud. It's the silence after you leave. Let me ask you, what would it mean if you stopped chasing attention in the moment and instead started cultivating the kind of presence people notice only when it's gone? Radiating ease without trying. You're walking through an airport or standing in line at a store, and suddenly someone catches your eye and smiles. No conversation, no context, just that quick, almost shy curve of recognition. You might brush it off, thinking it's politeness, but often it's deeper, because quiet weight leaks through without a word. A man at ease in himself radiates something rare in a world addicted to noise. Of course, sometimes it really is politeness. Like when an old lady smiles at you because you accidentally walked into the wrong restroom. Don't overthink those. Picture George Clooney in Ocean's 11. He isn't loud, he isn't showing off, yet his calm grin disarms entire rooms. That's not performance, it's unforced gravity. When strangers smile at you, it's not about your clothes or your haircut. It's about something in your walk, your face at rest, your energy held steady. Their body responds before their mind has a chance to explain it. And then reflect. If silence and stillness can draw warmth without effort, what else in your life could shift if you trusted your unspoken gravity more than your rehearsed performance? Commanding respect without seeking attention. You've seen it before. A man walks into a dinner, not dressed, loud, not showing off, just carrying himself steady. And without meaning to, someone at the table, even a woman who came with her partner, glances one beat too long. She quickly looks away, but her partner notices. The air shifts. This isn't about stealing attention. It's about presence. Sometimes another man's quiet strength becomes a mirror that exposes where we feel lacking. That glance isn't a victory, it's a signal, a reminder that true masculine magnetism doesn't need to hunt. It simply exists and others can't help but react. The Stoic move is not to exploit it, it's to stand firm, unaffected. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be when your presence itself becomes the answer, not your reaction to who's watching." Your practice, next time you sense eyes on you that shouldn't be, don't shrink, don't play into it. Just anchor yourself in your values. That restraint is what separates strength from impulse. Tonight, before you sleep, take 2 minutes. Just 2. Sit in the dark, no music, no phone, no noise. Place your hand on your chest and ask yourself one question. Where did my presence make a difference today? Don't force an answer, just sit with it. Sometimes it's the smile you gave a stranger, the calm you held in a heated room, or the way your son leaned against you without saying a word. If you repeat this simple ritual for 1 week, you'll begin to notice something. Presence isn't an abstract idea. It leaves fingerprints on the world every single day. This practice will show you those prints and remind you that your gravity is already at work. So I ask you, are you steady enough to carry presence without needing to spend it? Living simply without chasing attention. Think about the man in your office who never tries to impress. He wears the same plain jacket, doesn't dominate the meetings, doesn't post a curated life online. Yet when he speaks, people listen. When he enters the break room, conversations pause just a little. It's the subtle sound of his pen tapping on the table before he speaks, and suddenly the whole room waits. That pause holds more weight than another man's 5-minute speech. That's the magnetism of simplicity. In a world where most men exhaust themselves trying to look important, the one who doesn't chase attention becomes unforgettable. The Stoics called this alignment with nature, living without excess, without the burden of pretending. Seneca reminded us, it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. The one who no longer craves attention is the one people quietly respect. Now ask yourself, what would shift in your life if people remembered not the image you crafted, but the steadiness you carried? And if you're still here, you already feel this in your own life, don't you? Using silence as strength. There are men who rush to fill every pause with noise, jokes, chatter, endless explanations. You know the type, the guy who can turn a 30-second story into a 30-minute monologue about his fantasy football team. Nobody misses that silence. And then there are men whose silence unsettles yet fascinates. When you sit across from someone and they lean in without knowing why, it's not because of what you're saying, it's because of what you're not saying. True masculine presence doesn't demand space, it creates it. At a dinner table, in a meeting, even waiting for your coffee, people notice when you're at ease with quiet. It's rare in a world addicted to noise. The Stoics knew this. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Silence is not emptiness, it's the shade of your inner life made visible. If you're restless inside, your quiet feels tense. But if you've cultivated calm, your silence feels magnetic. It's like when you're waiting in line for coffee and the guy next to you nervously scrolls his phone. You don't. You just stand there steady. And without a word, he glances at you, curious why you're so unbothered. Are you escaping into words, or are you strong enough to let silence reveal your presence? Trusting the strength others already see in you. Here's the paradox. The men who carry the most weight rarely feel it themselves. You might doubt your worth. Compare yourself to louder, flashier people, and yet you leave an imprint far deeper than you know. Think back. How many times has someone told you they respected your judgment even when you thought you barely spoke? Or they remembered one thing you said months ago when you thought you'd gone unnoticed? Like that one sentence you whispered in a crowded meeting, the kind no one acknowledged then. But weeks later, someone repeats it word for word, as if it had been echoing in their head the whole time. That's the quiet strength of presence. It lingers even when you don't recognize it. Seneca once said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." Often it's through the very struggles you try to hide that your real power becomes visible. Others see the steadiness in your scars, even when you only see flaws. The heaviest strength is the one you don't feel until others hand it back to you. So I ask you, are you still blind to the strength others already see in you, or will you finally claim it as your own? Turning criticism into proof of presence. Sometimes the clearest proof of your presence isn't applause, it's resistance. Have you noticed how certain men or women throw sharp comments your way, even when you've done nothing to provoke it? The jab at your calmness, the mocking of your choices, the side eye when you enter a room. Most take it as an insult, but often it's projection. Your steadiness makes them face their own chaos. Your discipline exposes where they've gone soft, and that discomfort has to go somewhere, so it spills out as criticism. Epictetus warned, if anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said of you, but answer, he was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned these alone. In other words, don't defend, don't waste your energy. Their words reveal them more than they reveal you. So I ask you, are you willing to let another shadow sharpen your own light? Creating connection without words. There are rare moments when words become unnecessary. Sitting beside a friend after a long day, driving in silence with someone you trust, or holding your partner's hand without needing to explain anything. That's when you know your presence carries weight. Silence isn't awkward, it's charged. Others don't fidget, they don't reach for their phone, they don't rush to fill the void. They rest in it because you make the stillness feel alive. Think of driving late at night with someone you trust. No music, just the hum of the engine, streetlights flashing by. And somehow that quiet feels fuller than any conversation. The Stoics practiced this too. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." When you've built that retreat within, people sense it. They enter your orbit, and the quiet between you becomes the deepest conversation. Your practice. Create one silent space today. At dinner, on a walk, or in your office, hold the pause without apology. Watch how others settle into it. It may feel subtle, but that subtlety is the ultimate sign of power. So here's my final question. If silence with you feels like presence, not emptiness, what does that say about the man you have become? You've now walked through 12 habits that quietly shape a gravity most men never even notice in themselves. Not tricks, not performance, but signals that rise from the way you carry silence, endure loss, walk with discipline, and radiate without trying. Remember, time does not weaken true presence. It amplifies it. The storms of life don't erase you. They carve you into something sharper, steadier, more unforgettable. So stop chasing validation. Stop measuring yourself against noise. Start noticing the gravity already pulling others toward you. And practice day by day the calm, disciplined, luminous strength the Stoics live by. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more steadiness, your presence. But sometimes that same presence will be tested, not by chaos, but by cruelty. Some people will mistake your calm for weakness, your silence for surrender. That's when Stoicism stops being philosophy and becomes your armor. So the question is, when someone tries to hurt you, can you stay silent and still win? Some peace can only be kept by distance, and some silence is sharper than any sword. Some people believe the only way to answer pain is with more pain. They shout, they scheme, they post on social media trying to make their enemy feel small. But let me tell you the truth that very few dare to say. The most devastating response to those who hurt you is not revenge. It is the silence that makes them realize they never had any power to begin with. Think of it like this. Imagine you are standing in a boxing ring, gloves on, your rival ready to fight. The crowd is screaming, waiting for blood. But instead of lifting your fists, you calmly take off your gloves, step out of the ring, and walk away to a life much bigger than the fight itself. That moment, the refusal to even play their game, is the punch they never see coming. The absence of your fight is the blow that truly destroys them. This isn't just theory. It's not just quotes from dead philosophers. It's about how you, today, can turn the weight of betrayal, gossip, disrespect, or heartbreak into the kind of strength that no one can steal from you. So let me ask you directly, who in your life has been waiting for your reaction, feeding off your anger, expecting your collapse? And more importantly, are you ready to surprise them by giving them nothing at all, and in that nothing, finding your own power? Take a breath, lean in, and let's begin. Indifference, the weapon they can't handle. They expect you to fight back. That's the script they wrote for you. They poke, they provoke, they wait for you to explode. But indifference, that's the move they never see coming. And that's why it cuts deeper than any insult you could throw. Think of it like a fire. Pour gasoline on it, and it roars higher. But remove the oxygen, and the fire suffocates. Indifference is the act of cutting off the oxygen supply. The one who tried to hurt you starts to choke on their own flames while you walk away untouched. I remember a time in the office when a colleague spread rumors behind my back, trying to corner me into a public outburst. Everyone expected drama, but instead I stayed calm, delivered my presentation, and left the room without a single defensive word. Days later, the rumor faded, and the colleague looked small, because nothing they said found a reaction to stick to. The power of indifference isn't in proving yourself right, but in showing that they were never big enough to disturb your focus in the first place. Reacting makes them important. Ignoring makes them invisible. Many think indifference is weakness. The truth? It's the highest form of strategy. Many confuse silence with surrender, but in reality, silence is the rope that lets their ego hang itself. I once drafted a 3-page angry email to someone who wronged me. It was sharp, detailed, ruthless. Then I realized, if I send this, I'm declaring them the most important person in my day. So I did something better. I pressed delete. It felt like winning a war without even leaving my chair. So how do you practice indifference in real life? Start small. The next time someone tries to provoke you, whether it's a sarcastic comment at dinner or a colleague fishing for a reaction, pause. Don't rush to correct them. Don't rush to defend yourself. Take one slow breath, smile gently, and change the subject. That single pause is often the most devastating response of all, because in that moment, you show something bigger. Their words never reached you. They bounced off the surface of a person too centered, too grounded, too unshaken to care. So I'll ask you this: who in your life right now is still feeding on your reactions, waiting for your error, your defense, your pain? And what would happen if you stopped giving them that oxygen? If you simply chose indifference and in that silence took back your power? Indifference is not emptiness, it's elegance in armor. Denying their importance, the punishment they fear most. Every attack hides a secret hunger, the hunger to matter. When someone insults you, betrays you, or disrespects you, what they really crave is proof that they had an impact. They want to be the storm you can't ignore, the name you can't stop repeating. And that's exactly why denying their importance is the most brutal punishment of all. Think of it like graffiti sprayed on a wall. The artist wants you to stop, stare, react. But if you simply paint over it, or better, walk past without even noticing, it loses its meaning. The same goes for people who try to leave their mark on your soul. The less you acknowledge them, the quicker their attempt dissolves. I've seen this play out in friendships. There was a guy in my circle who loved throwing sharp jokes at my expense in front of others, hoping I'd fire back and give him the spotlight he craved. But I didn't bite. I just smiled, changed the subject, and kept the energy moving. That moment of silence, heavier than any comeback, told the truth. Your words don't reach me. And suddenly, the power he thought he had vanished. Not because I fought, but because I refused to make him important. Here's the contrarian truth. When you explain, when you defend, when you even shout, you are writing their name in bold letters across your own life. But when you move on without a word, their name fades into lowercase nothing. Explanation is oxygen. Stop feeding the fire. The truth is, when I was younger, I wasn't always this strong. I once spent an entire evening drafting a 20-page journal entry explaining why someone didn't matter to me. 20 pages. By the end, I had to admit the obvious. If I wrote that much, they clearly still mattered. That's when I closed the notebook and replaced the words with action. I went for a run, invested in myself, and realized progress is the only statement worth making. So here's your practice. When tempted to explain your side of the story, don't. Let your results be your response. The promotion you earn, the peace you cultivate, the smile on your face, that's the language they understand but can never argue with. And here's my question to you. Who are you still making bigger just by trying to prove they're small? And what would shift in your life if, starting today, you denied them the very thing they crave most, your attention? Because once you stop making them matter, they disappear on their own. Absence, the loudest response. Sometimes the loudest noise you can make is to leave. People expect arguments, slammed doors, angry words that echo down the hall. What they don't expect is the chair left empty, the voice that doesn't answer, the presence that simply vanishes. And that absence often thunders louder than any confrontation ever could. Think of it like an echo chamber. Shout into it, and the noise bounces back, feeding the cycle. But walk out of the chamber, and the shouting collapses into silence. Absence breaks the loop. It denies the one who hurt you the reaction they crave, leaving them to wrestle only with themselves. I once sat in a busy cafe where a woman kept throwing sharp, sarcastic remarks at the man across from her. She raised her voice, exaggerated her gestures, clearly fishing for a scene that the whole room could watch. For a moment, everyone waited for his explosion, but it never came. He quietly set down his cup, stood up, and left without a word. No anger, no defense, no justification, just absence. And in that moment, the cafe shifted. Her voice, suddenly without a target, felt out of place. Here's the contrarian truth. Arguing feeds them, even if you win. Absence starves them, even if you say nothing. You don't need to fight for the last word when the act of leaving makes your silence the final word. Sometimes let's imagine your absence like a mystery novel. People keep flipping pages, wondering where the main character went, but the character never returns, and the story feels unfinished. That's the torture. That's the power. So how do you practice this in real life? When disrespected, don't always rush to defend. Try leaving once, not with anger, but with clarity. Walk away from the argument, the toxic group chat, the endless debate. Give them the empty space they never wanted. Because absence creates a mirror, it forces them to face their own words without your energy to bounce against. Where in your life would walking away once, just once, change everything? And in that silence, the weight of their actions becomes unbearable. So let me ask you, in your own life, where would walking away once, not in rage but in calm dignity, speak louder than staying and fighting? And are you willing to let your absence be the message they can't escape? Sometimes leaving isn't running away. It's reclaiming the direction of your own life. Success, the mirror. They can't escape. Their greatest fear is not your anger. It's your smile after the storm. The one who tried to bring you down imagines your collapse, your tears, your bitterness. But when you rise instead, when you build, when you thrive, your very existence becomes a mirror they cannot escape. Every success you create throws their failure back in their face. Think of it like planting a garden after someone tried to salt your soil. They expected emptiness, weeds, nothingness. And then one morning, flowers bloom brighter than ever. Your success becomes the contradiction to the prediction. And contradictions sting more than any insult. History gives us countless examples. Think of Nelson Mandela. He spent 27 years in prison, labeled a criminal, forgotten by many who believed he would wither away in silence. His enemies expected him to emerge bitter, broken, or irrelevant. But when he walked free, he didn't crumble. He rose to lead a nation. His very existence as president became a mirror his jailers could never avoid. Their attempt to erase him ended in the one thing they feared most, his undeniable success. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Mandela's rise proved this truth. He didn't mirror the bitterness of his jailers. He became something higher, and that's what made his success undeniable. Here's the contrarian truth. You don't rise to prove them wrong. You rise to prove yourself right. Yet ironically, every step forward, every victory, becomes an unspoken verdict they cannot overturn. And let's be honest, sometimes it's almost comical. Nothing is more awkward than bumping into someone who bet against you while you're thriving. It's like them walking into a party they weren't invited to, only to see your name glowing on the banner. So here's the practice. Stop feeding the fantasy of revenge. Instead, feed your growth. Every day, commit to one small action that builds your future. Reading a book, hitting the gym, saving $1, learning a skill. Let time do the talking. Success is not built in grand gestures, but in daily bricks quietly stacked until a fortress stands where ruins once were. And I'll leave you with this reflection. What if the very wounds they gave you are not proof of your weakness, but seeds of your strength? Your wounds are not proof of weakness, they are seeds of strength. And what if, years from now, your happiness is the echo they can never silence? Let that echo become your quiet revenge. Contempt, the invisible strike. Hate is still a chain, anger is still a thread. The moment you hate someone, they still live inside you, shaping your breath, your pulse, your words. But contempt, true contempt, erases them. It is not shouting, not cursing, not arguing. It is treating them as if they never existed in your story at all. And nothing corrodes the ego faster than oblivion. Think of it like deleting spam from your inbox. A scammer wants you to click, to argue, to reply with outrage. But you don't. You swipe left. One motion, gone. And in that simple act, their entire strategy collapses. That's contempt, total nullification. I once watched a famous woman face a storm of anti-fans mocking her looks, her voice, her every move. They expected rage, tears, or long explanations. But she gave them nothing, no posts, no replies, no energy. She kept living, kept working, and slowly their noise faded into silence. That contempt, treating them as irrelevant, was her sharpest strike. And let me break the tension with a laugh. Once someone told me they were done with me forever. Weeks later, they kept sending me messages, furious that I wasn't replying. I realized they didn't want to be hated. They wanted to be remembered. Contempt starved them of what they wanted most, my attention. Here's the contrarian truth. The opposite of love isn't hate. The opposite of love is nothingness. Hatred still acknowledges importance. Contempt sweeps the stage clean. So here's your practice. The next time a toxic voice circles back, resist the urge to explain or lash out. Instead, imagine sliding their name into the recycle bin of your mind. Don't give them space in your sentences. Let their shadow dissolve in the light of your new focus. What if, for the next 7 days, you stop giving them even a mention? True contempt doesn't announce itself. It simply moves on while their echoes fade into dust. No scoreboard, no witnesses, just peace. Now let me ask you, who in your life has been surviving only on the fuel of your reaction? And what would happen if, starting today, you denied them even the memory they crave? Self-control, the crown, no one can steal. The manipulator always waits for the same moment, the crack in your control. They expect to see you unravel, to beg, to shout, to prove. Because the second you lose control, they win. But when you master yourself, when you answer chaos with calm, the crown shifts. Self-control is the crown no one can steal. Think of a storm. Branches bend, roofs shake, trees collapse. But deep in the ocean, beneath the surface, the water is calm. That's self-control, staying steady when the world above you is thrashing. People don't expect calm, and that's why it's so devastating. I once stood in an airport line when a man behind me began muttering insults, trying to provoke me. Old me would have snapped back. Instead, I stayed calm, said nothing, and moved forward when my turn came. His anger collapsed into silence. He looked smaller, not me. Epictetus said it plainly, "No man is free who is not master of himself." That's exactly what self-control is. Freedom. The moment you hold your center, no insult can chain you. Here's the contrarian truth. The louder they expect you to be, the quieter you should become. That's not weakness, it's dominance. Every calm breath you take in the face of provocation is like stealing the script from their hands and rewriting it. And let's lighten the air with some honesty. When I was younger, I thought raising my voice made me powerful. I mistook volume for authority. But authority isn't about who speaks loudest. It's about who doesn't need to raise their voice at all. So here's your practice. The next time someone provokes you at work, in traffic, in a relationship, don't rush to speak. Lower your tone instead of raising it. Slow down your breathing. Hold your body still. Notice how quickly the other person's energy starts to wobble when yours stays unshaken. Because mastery isn't about controlling the world. It's about controlling yourself. And in that self-control, every manipulator is unmasked. They see that the power they thought they had over you was never real. It was borrowed from your reaction. So let me ask you, if you could hold your center no matter the storm, how many people would lose the power they thought they had over you? And what kind of freedom would that give you? Because control isn't silence, it's sovereignty. Silence without explanation. The final blow. Closure is a myth. People think every story needs a final conversation, a last text, a grand explanation. But the sharpest ending is no ending at all. Silence without explanation. It is the strike they cannot block, the question that keeps echoing in their minds long after you've left. Think of it like a stage play. The audience waits for the final act, the curtain call, the bow. But instead, the lights go out, the curtain never rises again, and the actors vanish. That unfinished silence haunts more than any scripted goodbye. I once watched a man try to drag his old friend into an argument online, tagging him, posting bait after bait, but the friend never answered. No comment, no defense, no final word. Days turned into weeks and the silence grew unbearable. Not for the one who walked away, but for the one who kept shouting into the void. The absence of reply became the loudest reply. Here's the contrarian truth. When you argue, you still share the stage. When you explain, you still acknowledge their role in your story. But when you vanish without explanation, you take the stage with you, leaving them to perform alone in an empty theater. And let me smile at myself for a second. In my younger days, I chased closure like it was oxygen. I wanted the last word, the clear ending, the perfect line. But I learned that silence often heals faster than words. You don't always need to lock the door. You just need to stop walking back into the room. So here's your practice. If you feel trapped in a toxic loop, cut it, not with anger, but with absence. Don't announce, don't justify, simply step out, calmly, firmly, quietly. Let time do the talking. Let their own echo torment them. Because silence without explanation creates a prison. And the jailer is not you, it's their own mind. They replay every scene, searching for answers you never gave, until regret becomes their only companion. Some stories don't need an ending. The absence itself is the lesson. Strength is not found in shouting, in proving, or in chasing revenge. Strength is found in walking forward so steadily that the ones who tried to break you would dissolve into the dust behind you. Every time you choose indifference over drama, absence over arguments, growth over revenge, contempt over hate, self-control over chaos, and silence over endless explanations, you reclaim yourself. Remember this, the real victory is not when they fall. The real victory is when their fall no longer matters to you. Because the one who rises, the one who smiles, the one who keeps building, that's you. And no shadow from the pine can dim that light. So leave the noise behind. Carry your dignity forward. Let them sit in the prison of their own echoes, while you step freely into the life you were meant to live. Whisper this to yourself: they never had power over me. I am the author now. Take a breath, walk lighter, and remember, silence is not emptiness. Silence is your crown. You've mastered the art of holding back. Now it's time for something harder: letting go. The next lesson is the calmest one of all. Let them and stay unmoved. To everyone with a heavy sense of responsibility, stop being the 24/7 help desk for other people's moods. Peace doesn't arrive when you fix them. It starts the second you let them. Picture this. You are a lighthouse, not a tugboat. Tugboats chase. Lighthouses choose position. Your job isn't to drag ships to safety. It's to stand steady, shine clean, and let captains reveal themselves by how they steer. Guard your attention like a border. Stamp the few that matter. Wave the rest through. That one shift, the let them shift, puts your chest back in order while the coastline is still storming. Now imagine another scene. You're at a family dinner. One relative is fishing for conflict, tossing little barbs into the conversation. Normally, you'd defend yourself, explain, prove your point. Tonight, you try something different. You sip your water, smile lightly, and let the comment drift past. Within minutes, the air changes. The storm they prepared never lands because you never stepped into the arena. That silence, that refusal to wrestle, is more powerful than any defense you could have mounted. A respectful nod. The let them mindset is widely shared online. We honor its spirit here and ground it in everyday moves you can use at work, at home, and in the quiet rooms of your own head. We'll move through 10 parts, each a fresh angle so it never feels like the same sermon. Where letting go is courage, where silence is strategy, where boundaries speak louder than speeches. And midway, I'll hand you a small, tangible tool you can keep, something you'll reach for the next time someone tries to rent space in your mind for free. Before we begin, pick one leak in your piece: work, home, or your own thoughts. Place a hand on your chest, take 2 slow breaths, and keep that place in mind as we move. If you stopped fixing and started filtering today, where would you feel the first inch of quiet? And what is the single boundary you'll test in the next hour to protect it? Let them be who they are. Stop editing people like unfinished drafts. When you rewrite someone, you don't meet them. You meet your own version of them. That's why peace keeps slipping. You're arguing with a character you created, not the real person in front of you. I remember a Monday meeting where a coworker presented my idea as his. The old me would have launched into defense mode. Instead, I asked one clean question. What's the plan? Who does what? By when? And what could go wrong? He couldn't answer. The room understood. Afterward, I sent a short recap with names and dates. No drama, just clarity. The lesson? Let people's actions be their own mirror. Acceptance is not approval. It's a spotlight. When you stop coaching adults against their will, the stage lights up and you finally see who's actually standing there. How they handle praise, how they handle pressure, how they treat people who can't help them. From there, choice becomes simple. Not punishment, placement. You don't chase, you calibrate access. Think of it like tending a garden. You don't scold a rose for not becoming a sunflower. You don't glue new petals on to match your taste. You observe what's already growing and then decide whether to water it, trim it, or plant something different beside it. People are no different. As Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, if someone is mistaken, instruct them kindly. If that fails, blame yourself, or not at all. The Stoic strength is not in sculpting others, but in sculpting their own reactions. Family, romance, friendships, business, it's the same rhythm. Let them talk, let them hurry, let them forget. Let them try to sell you a future version of themselves. Believe what their present tense is telling you. Not cold, not cynical, just clear. Your calm isn't built by changing their script. It's built by honoring your standards and walking accordingly. There's a quiet power in this restraint. The moment you stop trying to change other people, your hands are free to build your own life. And strangely, the right people grow closer when you stop pulling. The wrong ones drift without a fight. Gravity does the sorting. So pause for a moment. If you stopped editing others, who would show up in their truest form? And how different would your peace feel if you trusted their actions? Detachment restores your peace. Calm isn't an accident. It's a decision you make before the noise arrives. Detachment isn't cold distance from people. It's distance from the illusion that you can steer them like pieces on a chessboard. Picture your attention like the front door of your home. Every ping, tone, and late reply is a knock. Some knocks are gentle, some are fists pounding. But not every knock deserves an open door. You can welcome what matters, hold on to what is yours to carry, and leave the rest outside. I've felt the pull. A cold text lands, my chest heats up, and my mind races to build a courtroom. Motives, witnesses, verdicts. Let's be honest. Checking who's seen your message 10 times an hour doesn't make them reply faster. It only ages you quicker. But then I remember, in every moment, there are only 3 loads: yours, theirs, and shared. Yours deserve action. Theirs deserves space. Shared deserves one clean line down the middle. When you honor this filter, you step out of the storm. The noise doesn't vanish, but it loses its grip on your center. Epictetus said it centuries ago. Some things are in our control and others are not. His words are a scalpel, cutting the clutter of responsibility that was never yours to begin with. Think of it like carrying luggage through an airport. You already have your own bag. If you keep picking up every stranger's suitcase, you'll collapse before reaching your gate. Detachment is simply refusing to carry what was never checked in under your name. And something shifts the moment you release what isn't yours. The first morning you stop checking who saw it. Coffee tastes warmer. The hallway feels wider. Your shoulders drop an inch you didn't know you were holding. And you notice how many storms die on their own when you stop standing under them with a bucket. So let me ask you, which load are you carrying today that doesn't have your name on it? And if you set it down right now, what space would open in your life for the things only you can truly move? Just breathe here. No fixing, no notes. Let the idea settle. Peace begins the moment you stop carrying what isn't yours. Control is a disguised fear. Control rarely announces itself as fear. It dresses up as responsibility, as care, as leadership. But peel the mask back, and you'll often find a tight chest that can't stand surprises. I used to convince myself I was just being responsible, but really, I was terrified of anything I couldn't script in advance. I learned this on a vacation I once treated like a product launch. Color-coded days, backup restaurants, even alarms for relax. By lunch on day 1, Elena, my partner, looked at me and laughed. We were exhausted from being on time. We ripped the plan in half, followed street music, ate where the air smelled good. And you know what? Nothing collapsed. Life carried us better than my checklist ever could. Control feels productive because your hands are busy, but most of the world doesn't take your orders. People, traffic, weather, timing. What you can steer is smaller and kinder. Your tone, your choices, your pace. When you stop wrestling what isn't yours to move, your jaw softens, your breath evens, and your voice finds clarity. Think of control like gripping a handful of sand. The harder you squeeze, the faster it leaks out between your fingers. Loosen your grip, and suddenly more remains. Life works the same way. When you tighten around people, outcomes, or time, You exhaust yourself and lose the very thing you're desperate to keep. But when you allow a little space, what matters most often remains. And it stays not because you forced it, but because it truly belongs. A Stoic reminder. Seneca wrote, "He suffers more than necessary who suffers before it is necessary." Control is often our way of suffering twice, once in imagination, once in reality. We invent disasters to tame them in advance, but all we build is exhaustion. So swap grip for guidance. Hold the wheel lightly. Look further down the road. Prepare, yes, but retire the fantasy that preparation guarantees obedience. Care, yes, but stop launching rescue missions no one requested. Love, yes, and give reality a seat at the table. So ask yourself, if you loosened your hold by just one notch today, where would the freedom show first? Your jaw, your schedule, or that hidden story in your head that says everything must obey your script? Let consequences teach. Rescue feels kind in the moment, but over time it steals the very lesson that would make them stronger. I had a teammate who ignored feedback and showed up with a messy slide deck. 5 minutes before a client run-through, he whispered, "Can you fix it?" My pride wanted the cape, but I stepped back. "You've got this. Own it." He stumbled. The client asked 3 basic questions he couldn't answer, and the sting did what my speeches never could. The very next morning, he arrived early, rebuilt the outline, and never came unprepared again. This isn't cruelty, it's respect. When you keep catching people, you teach them to outsource adulthood to you. Let reality speak in its own language, because pain is a teacher that lectures without notes and leaves no room for excuses. Think of it like a blacksmith forging iron. The hammer strikes again and again, the sparks fly, and the fire roars hotter with each blow. The steel reshaping, only because it is tested under weight and heat. Remove it too soon, and it stays brittle, unfinished, unable to hold an edge. But leave it in the fire, let the hammer fall, and the same raw metal transforms into a blade that can cut, protect, and endure. People are the same. Without the weight of consequence, character never hardens. Seneca said it clearly. Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. To strip someone of consequence is to rob them of strength. In life, it's simple. The chronic canceller meets an empty chair. The indecisive manager meets a missed window. The grown child who sleeps through alarms meets the cost of being late. You don't need to play judge. Life already wrote the law. So hold standards without heat. Say it plainly. I'm available for planning, not last-minute saves. If you're late, we start without you. After 2 cancellations, we'll try again next month. You're not punishing, you're placing. You're not angry, you're clear. And the quiet gift is this. People either rise to the line or drift to where their habits belong. Either way, your peace returns. And the ones who rise stand taller because the win is theirs, not yours. So pause with me. Where in your life are you cushioning a fall that needs to be felt? And if you finally step back, how might reality itself teach the lesson your words never could? 5. Drop the unspoken expectations. I used to bill people with invisible invoices, silent contracts, unsigned and unpaid. We expect replies on our timeline, congratulations in our language, effort measured by our ruler, then feel betrayed when people don't guess the rules. I can't count how many times I felt let down, only to realize I never actually told them what I needed. A friend didn't text back after my quiet win. I told myself a whole story. He doesn't care, he's jealous, maybe he's pulling away. Later, I realized I'd never once said words matter to me more than gifts. At home, the same rhythm played out. She needed silence after work. I needed a check-in. Neither of us spoke it out loud. We were both paying invoices we never issued. Clarity is kindness. Turn fog into one clean sentence or release it. It helps me when you respond within a day. Can we agree on that? I'd love a quick well done when I share a win. Does that work for you? At work, I need confirmation by 3 p.m. to ship today. If they can't meet it, you're not wrong, you're informed. Adjust the plan, not your worth. Spoken expectations become standards. Silent ones become resentments. Think of it like giving someone a locked box and feeling angry when they can't open it. If you don't hand them the key, how could they? Expectations are the same. Locked boxes with rules only you can see. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Honesty isn't only about facts. It's about voicing the needs that, if hidden, quietly poison connection. So let people be who they are without turning it into a verdict on you. Ask cleanly or let go cleanly. Both paths bring peace. The only trap is the middle, where you demand silently and punish quietly. Pause for a moment. What's one expectation you've been holding that no one else even knows about? And if you voiced it or dropped it completely, how much lighter would your relationships feel? Stop feeding every fire. Reactivity is expensive, attention is fuel, and some people don't want resolution. They just want your spark to keep their blaze alive. A jab lands online, your fingers itch to type a masterpiece reply. Don't audition, close the tab. In the group chat, outrage spins like a storm drain. Mute it for a day and watch the whirlpool collapse without your drop of water. At work, a spicy email arrives. Answer with one clean line that moves the ball, or not at all. You don't owe attendance to every argument you're invited to. Choose one of three paths. Reply later, reply short, or don't reply. Most fires don't need you to put them out. They need you to stop tossing wood. Think of it like campfires in the forest. Some are meant to warm, to cook, to gather around. Others rage out of control. And if you can't tell the difference fast enough, you'll end up feeding flames that were never meant to keep you alive. Silence, chosen well, is a firebreak that saves the ground you stand on. The Stoics knew this truth. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You always have the option of having no opinion." No opinion means no fuel. No fuel means their fire starves in silence. That's not avoidance. It's discipline. A lock on the door of your peace. When adrenaline surges and words beg to sprint, try the three-line fire break. Say one line once, then stop. I'm available for solutions, not blame. That doesn't work for me. I'm stepping back. I won't continue in this tone, pausing here. If your reply needs a paragraph, the question probably didn't deserve one. Keep your dignity in your pocket, not in their hands. Save your flame for what compounds. Work that matters, people who listen, standards that protect peace. So reflect. Which blaze in your life still burns only because you keep feeding it? And what strength would return to you the moment you decide to stop carrying wood into someone else's fire? Choose battles, protect standards. For a long time, I mistook silence for maturity. But if I'm honest, much of that silence was just me avoiding the mess. Peace isn't saying yes to everything. It's choosing what's truly worth your fire. In a supplier meeting, a partner cut off my teammate twice. The third time I stepped in, calm voice, steady eyes. We're going to hear her finish. The room reset instantly. Respect often follows clarity, not volume. Not every slight needs steel. Some need distance, some need a line, some need nothing at all. Boundaries are quiet armor, felt, not flaunted. Distance isn't revenge, it's respect. Think of battles like coins in a small pouch. Each one you spend is gone forever. If you hand them out in every petty quarrel, you'll be broke when the real fight for your values arrives. Save your coins for the moments that define your standard. Epictetus gave the same wisdom. You may fetter my leg, but not even Zeus himself can overpower my will. His point was simple. Your dignity is the true battlefield, and you win by choosing which ground to defend. One practical move, the one-line SOS, send a single line in the right channel. Task, owner, deadline. No essays, no arguments, just clean clarity. Demo checklist, Alex, Friday 3 p.m. School pickup, Dad, 5:30 p.m. Shared album, everyone, 5 photos, tonight 9 p.m. One line flips conflict into execution. If no one claims it, that's your signal to adjust proximity. Limit exposure, lower priority, or document for later. So ask yourself, where are you spending coins on petty scuffles when you should be saving them for the battles that protect your standard? And what one boundary could you enforce today that would instantly remind others and yourself what truly matters? Return the focus to yourself. How much of your life has been spent running diagnostics on other people, reading tones, decoding silences, auditing motives, while your own goals sit in the corner like loyal dogs waiting to be walked? Bring the mirror home. Shift a slice of your day from analysis to building. Put 30 minutes into what compounds: body, craft, environment. Lift something, ship something, clear a surface. Upgrade a tool. Small order creates big oxygen. The trade is immediate. When you stop tracking someone else's mood graph, you start noticing your own momentum. Sleep steadies, food tastes richer, work flows, and the people meant for your rhythm catch up without you pulling. I once tracked someone's mood swings like a stock chart. Spoiler, the market never stabilized, and I lost my own balance. Think of focus like sunlight through a magnifying glass. Spread wide, it warms nothing. Concentrated, it can set a fire. Your attention works the same way. Scattered on everyone else, it fades. Aimed at your own path, it ignites. As Marcus Aurelius urged himself, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. B1 energy spent monitoring others can be instantly rerouted into embodying your own standard. I've wasted hours drafting replies to imaginary texts, defending myself to people who weren't even in the room. Meanwhile, one set of push-ups would have built more strength than all that mental theater combined. This is not selfishness, it's stewardship. The more you invest in what you can actually steer, the less you leak into what you can't. So pause here. If you claim just one 30-minute block today for yourself, what would you build? And how much momentum would return the moment you put the magnifying glass back on your own life? Allow emotions without managing them. Feeling isn't a flaw to fix. The rush to soothe, explain, or give advice is often our own discomfort wearing a mask of care. Let them feel. Let the room breathe. A partner comes home quiet. You don't need a speech. You can offer presence. I'm here. Want company or space? At the airport, a stranger snaps at the agent. The man behind you whispers, "Rough day," and the air softens. With a grieving friend, the most human sentence is the simplest. I'm not here to change how you feel. Don't turn their weather into your report. Their tears are not an accusation. Their silence is not a verdict. It is theirs. When you stop managing every emotion you witness, trust grows. Yours and theirs. People learn they can bring their whole self without being corrected into a mood that is easier for you. And think of emotions like waves on the shore. Some may crash, some barely ripple. You don't command the ocean. You choose how to stand on the sand. Let the tide rise and fall without trying to scoop it in your hands. Epictetus said, "It is not events that disturb people. It is their judgments concerning them." The same applies to emotions. Your peace is less about what others feel and more about what you decide their feelings mean. Give yourself the same permission. Let anger knock, sit for a few minutes, and leave without drafting an email in its name. Let sadness pass through like weather. You are the ground, not the storm. Presence says you are not alone. Without stealing the lesson pain is trying to deliver. Love can hold space. It doesn't have to hold control. So reflect. Who in your life are you trying to rescue from their own feelings because they make you uneasy? And what would shift if, instead of curing, you simply offered calm company and trusted their storm to teach its own lesson? Make it a daily practice. Final part. Make it daily. This isn't a slogan, it's a posture you rebuild each day, like sweeping the floor. The dust always comes back, but so does your choice to clear it. Musonius Rufus once wrote, "We should not merely learn what we ought to do, but practice doing it." Knowledge doesn't keep you, practice does. And tonight, this is already practice: listening, breathing, releasing. You won't nail it once and be done. You'll forget, react, over-explain. Then you'll remember, reset, and return. That return is the strength. Treat small choices like weights. The text you don't send at midnight, the argument you walk past, the expectation you either voice or release. Consistency beats intensity. Quiet beats noise. Standards beat speeches. Think of peace like a muscle. Lift it daily and it grows. Skip the reps and it weakens. You don't build calm by waiting for life to stop shouting. You build it by rehearsing silence even when the noise is loud. Marcus Aurelius urged himself, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work," as a human being. Daily practice is simply that, doing the work of being human, one steady move at a time. And as your eyes grow heavy, remember, peace isn't something you chase, it's the place you return to, gently. You can honor this without making life rigid. Prepare, but don't bargain with reality. Care, but don't carry what isn't yours. Love people and let their choices introduce them, while your choices introduce you. So ask yourself, where will you practice today? One place, one person, one moment. And what small move will prove that your peace is not rented out, but owned outright, inch by inch, day by day? You don't need the world to agree before you can rest. You need one decision: let them and remain. Let them talk, stall, rush, doubt. You choose your standard. You choose your next small move. When control knocks, smile, breathe, return to your side of the street. Keep your center paid in full. Keep your word to yourself. Peace isn't a trophy to win. It's a home you maintain, sweep by sweep, choice by choice. Remember, storms will circle, people will test, life will shake the walls. But you are not here to put out every fire, chase every boat, or rewrite every script. You are here to guard your ground, honor your standard, and let gravity sort what belongs and what drifts away. Peace is not a fortress built once. It is a candle you relight daily. Some nights the flame flickers. Some mornings it almost dies, but the match is always in your hand. And each time you choose to relight it, the room inside you grows brighter. Tonight, let that candle glow quietly. You don't have to hold the world, just this breath, this heartbeat, this rest. Epictetus reminded us, no man is free who is not master of himself. Freedom isn't in bending others, it's in standing unbent within yourself. Marcus Aurelius added, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Between those two truths lies your daily practice. Not control, not rescue, not editing others, just returning to your own ground. So tonight, whisper it softly before you sleep. I protect my peace. I honor my standard. I let them be, and I become. Tomorrow, you don't need to conquer the whole world. Just practice 1 inch of calm. 1 inch is enough because inch by inch becomes a life. Let them orbit. You hold the center. If this journey brought you stillness tonight, stay with us. Subscribe, not to chase more, but to remember what's already within you. Sleep easy now. You've done enough for today.